Are you ready to invest in yourself today? Welcome to the Wealth Builders Podcast, where investment leader Billy Epperhart teaches you how to build wealth through applied biblical wisdom. Scripture says in Deuteronomy 8:18, "Remember the Lord, your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth." At Wealth Builders, our goal is to teach you how to build wealth through applied biblical wisdom in your finances, your business, and your investments.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wealth Builders Podcast. I'm Karen Conrad, Vice President of Wealth Builders, and thank you so much for joining me today. We're so excited about this series that we're in. We're talking about real estate. And I know many of you have got a passion for real estate. I certainly do. Billy and Becky sure do. It's our favorite way to invest, to build wealth, God's way. And today I'm going to be sharing with you 4 of the most common residential real estate revenue streams. And this is all leading up to a special event that we've got coming up on April 22nd to the 24th in Denver, Colorado. And it is the Wealth Builders Real Estate Workshop. We only do it twice a year, and it sells out every time. It is a power-packed weekend. Billy does a lot of the teaching himself over the weekend, and then others, speakers and coaches, we contribute as well. But it is all things real estate with a kingdom perspective. So if you've got an interest in attending, don't wait, because we always sell out and there's only a few seats left. You can go to wealthbuilders.org events and you can learn more about it and you can register, and we would love to see you there. So when we talk about common residential real estate revenue streams, we're going to focus on the residential real estate, and we're going to start talking about single family homes. That is the most common way that most of us, when we invest in real estate, it's where we start. We might graduate to other types of real estate, but this is really the bread and butter. And personally, for me, I just love single family because I like the idea of creating a space that a family can live in. I like to make it beautiful, find different exit strategies for it, just finding that right house. It's just so fun if you get to do renovations. And there are 3 different ways with basic single family homes that you can earn revenue streams on that property. Here's the 3. Number 1, which is the most common, you do something called a buy and hold. That's where you purchase a property, you get a tenant in, usually 12 months or longer lease, and then you've got that one tenant that stays. Sometimes they can stay for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, but basically they're making a consistent payment on rent, which covers your mortgage and pays off your mortgage, gives you cash flow, and really is probably the most hands off, especially if you've got a property manager. So that's called a buy and hold. A year or longer lease is the most common. The second type with a basic single family home is buying and flipping. Now, flipping houses is a lot of fun, but it also carries quite a bit of risk. You want to know what you're doing. You've got to buy right. Billy always says that you make money when you buy, not when you sell. And you have to manage the process in a way that you're not overspending or under improving. And why I say that there is a higher risk in it is that if there's market fluctuations during the time that you're in the midst of doing the flip, and there's also the construction part, discovering things. Anybody that's done flips, you know what I'm talking about. But the potential, the benefit of it is this provides cash at the end for you as well. So one of the things that Billy encourages us to look at, he said, is kind of common, is if you do maybe a pattern of 2 to 3 buy and holds, and then you do a flip, go back to 2 or 3 buy and holds, that can really help you, because when you do a flip, and again, if you do it right, it brings in cash into your real estate business that you can use as down payments to purchase more properties. So buying and flipping, buying and holding And then the third one is vacation rentals. This is becoming really more and more popular as people have come out of COVID. They're working from home. We're just seeing that people are enjoying staying in single family properties as an alternative to a hotel. So the thing about vacation rentals is that not every market has a demand for it. So you want to make sure you do a lot of research with that. The property management is much more intensive on it because you've got people maybe staying 2 to 3 days, maybe a month. So you've got to get cleaners in there. Also, the setup cost for a vacation rental is much higher. You've got to buy the pots and pans, all the linens, washer and dryer. You've got to make sure everything is in working order and that you've got the details in that property that you would need to be able to stay in a home. Where generally, when we do the first one I talked about with the buy and hold, you often don't even need a refrigerator, although we put refrigerators in. You don't have to have the washer and dryer in. The tenant often brings that in. You don't have to have the furniture. You don't have to have the pots and pans. You don't need the silverware. So you just have to look at these three, analyze them, assess which one works the best, and go in with your eyes open on the expenses. They're all very strong options. We personally do all three of them. We're kind of in a rhythm with them. And it's very nice if you can buy a property that has the opportunity or the option to do any three of these. It really mitigates your risk. So I'll just share one more comment on this just for time's sake to give you a little bit more information on what I'm talking about with exit strategies. When we purchase a home or when we look at a market, we analyze it three different ways. We look at it and run the numbers for a buy and hold. And to do that, you look at the market. We've got a lot of ratios we share with you in the workshop that we want you to look at. And then I start to look at what the buy and holds are going for based on the purchase price. And you look to see that those numbers work. And then if you find the right property, that's a viable exit strategy, number one. Second, for buying and flipping, this is tricky because a lot of markets, the prices are so inflated that it's tough to buy something with margin in. I mean, there's homes that are not updated, that are going over asking in some markets. So if you go in and make an improvement with that property, you've got to know that the market is going to call for that value to be recognized in both a purchase price and in an appraisal. And then third, I'll analyze it based on a vacation rental market. Is this something that if at the end of this, I decide I want to do vacation rentals, is it viable? Or if one of the areas starts to falter, whether the buy and holds or maybe the values of properties for a flip, is a vacation rental an option that might fill the gap? So when you look at a home and you analyze it on all of these three items, you can know as you get through the process and make any improvements, you are going to have a way to make money on that property. Quick story in Minnesota. I just sold that property in 2020, but our single family home we had in Minnetonka, Minnesota was an executive home. And at the time that I moved to Colorado, it was a strong buy and hold market because the interest rates had kind of started to go up. The real estate market had faltered a bit. So even though the value of my home went down because it was in that upper price range, my cash flow for a buy and hold renter was actually the strongest that I experienced during that 7 years of holding it. It's really odd when you look at when the market goes down that rental rates generally go up. But as the market started to improve, as the interest rates started to go down, more people were able to get into properties. And so the buy and hold market just started to tank, even though the real estate market was heating up with prices and the lower interest rates. And so I had to make a transition. If I was going to have any hope of cash flowing on that property, I transitioned it into a vacation rental and I improved my margins significantly and was really grateful that this property that we had purchased and actually built had the option to be strong in the area of buy and hold during one season, but I could shift it to a vacation rental. Then eventually I was able to sell it. So all that is on single family properties. There's a lot there. All right. So then the second one that I want to visit about briefly here, that is a revenue stream for single family homes, is the small multifamily property. And when I say the small multifamily, it can be a duplex to a fourplex. So with a duplex to a fourplex, the big advantage that you have is that it still goes under the conventional financing. And that is really helpful, especially if you are early in investing and maybe you haven't built up a strong track record of real estate investing. You're going to have to show the bank that you can cash flow, and we really want to get it at the lowest price and the lowest cost for our financing. So, what you can do is if you get the duplex, triplex, or fourplex. Even if you are saying this is your first property, it can work in that you can actually move into one of those units and claim it as your primary dwelling. And that brings a lot of benefits to the table for you. Again, duplex, triplex, fourplex, you qualify for being able to finance it under the conventional guidelines. That can be very beneficial for you in many ways because if you move in, a lot of times what people do is the other people that are in that unit, the renter covers all of the expense. So it could be a way for you to get into a property and be able to enjoy it and live there, but have somebody else cover the expense. Another benefit is when you are living on site, let's say it's a fourplex, you can keep an eye on what's going on there, and that can mitigate your risk. And you don't have to potentially pay for a property manager because you are right there. When you go from single family to multifamily, another benefit to that is instead of just having what we call one door that you have to make all the numbers work, you actually have multiple doors. And in that, we give you some ratios and guidelines where you don't have to have and hit the cash flows that we recommend on a single family. You can go down a bit because you're multiplying the number of doors or revenue that's coming in from that one purchase. Again, the property management and the maintenance can be easier because all of the units are close to each other. So if you have to have something done, you're not going to be paying for 4 trip charges, right? Because there's 4 doors right there in that location. It's also a good option in a tight market. Right now, I think we'd all agree that real estate's a pretty tight market. Things are brisk. If something comes on the market at the right price, it is gone in almost every market right now in the United States, but not as many people qualify for or are as interested in the multifamily property. So it can give you a nice edge. Number three, and this is an interesting concept, is called turnkey properties. And this sort of blends a lot of things I've already talked about together. So here's what a turnkey property is. It would be a property that you go in and purchase and you update everything. This would work for a single family or a multifamily. Again, just keeping it at that 4 unit. You get a tenant in, so you take care of all that. Then you put it out on the market as a already rented out property. So when you make the improvements, then you bring the tenant in and you've got solid cash flows. There's investors out there that are looking at the caps. They're looking to just purchase a property. A lot of 1031 money can go into things like this. And so you do all that work on the front end. And if you do it right, you can get a very nice profit on the back end by doing all the improvements, getting the tenants in, and selling an investor what's called this turnkey property. Because there's a lot of real estate investors looking for properties right now, they're willing to even go long distance. A matter of fact, we've got a lot of coaching clients that live in the Colorado Springs area, but the ratios are tough there. It's tough to find properties. The the price of homes has gone up substantially. And so they've begun to look at other markets like Oklahoma. We're purchasing in Florida right now. And this really is attractive for investors to be able to purchase this turnkey property. So normally it's very easy to finance, especially when the rental income is being generated, because there's programs out there right now that have started for investors because the Fannie and Freddie market is tightened for investors, where the underwriting is taking place on the cash flow. They're not even looking at debt to income. So if an investor has got the money to put down, so they've got the down payment, and these cash flow, they can get approved for the loan without even having to show their job income. And that's something that can really be a tight space for a lot of investors because there's a gap. What I mean by that is if they go in and purchase a home, they have to qualify for that home or that real estate investment based on their income because there's no tenant in the property. When you do a turnkey, you are able to show that there is income coming in with that lease, and you're able to qualify without, in some cases, having to even go into your personal income. That's really, really powerful right now. And this, the turnkey properties, is a big, big edge for you as an investor to reach this type of real estate investor looking for the opportunity to just take their 1031 money, buy a property, and begin to have cash flow. And the fourth one and the final one that we're going to talk about today is fix and flip real estate. This is very fun. We all love to watch HGTV shows. There's this one show that we were just really loving. It's called Flip Wars. And it was this group of real estate investors that they'd go in and they would compete for these properties. And then they would follow them through the path of them flipping and eventually selling a home. It's very exciting. You might even say it's a little bit of an adrenaline rush. I love flipping homes because I like to redo things. I like to see the transformation. I like to decorate, design, but in that there is risk because if a property that you purchase only works as a flip and something blips in the market, let's say that all at once prices go down, if that's your only exit strategy, it can really be difficult because you put all the money into the property, you're expecting to be able to sell it for more. There's maybe something that happened in the market, you're not able to sell it, sometimes even for what you bought it for. You get the picture. Now, that doesn't have to happen. I certainly don't expect it to be happening anytime soon, but this is where your due diligence with flips comes in. Another common thing that with flips that I really have to watch, and Dave and Levi help me, is I love to make everything super beautiful, but you have to be aware of the area that you're in and what's called the ARV, the after repair value, realistically what that is, so you don't over improve the property just to keep going. Sometimes I'll get into a property and it's like one more thing, one more thing. Oh, but if we just did this, and before you know it, if I would go through with all that, the things that I might like to do isn't going to bring money in on the sale. So you have to pay attention to the things that are critical. And your real estate agent, we help you with that at the workshop. If you're in the coaching program, we walk you through that with each property. You have to have someone that helps you analyze the market to know what improvements are important in this neighborhood or this area, and what are things that, you know what, if you did it, it's not going to bring the extra money in on a flip, and then be disciplined to follow that. So there definitely is, with the fix and flip, a potential to make a large amount of money in a short period of time and bring in cash flow. And this is the part that I was sharing with you that, if you do two buy and holds and then you do a flip and you do it right, it actually can pay for the down payment to go in to do more flips. That's exactly what we're doing right now. We've got a home under contract that is a flip. And that the earnings from that is going to allow us to buy additional properties. And it's a good discipline to think about how that additional money is going to come in, because most of us don't have an unlimited bank account of cash. We want to be able to create wealth along the way that brings in that short-term cash infusion to be able to continue on our path to real estate investing. Um, just a couple things to think about with fix and flips. If you do a fix and then you sell it within the same tax year or the same 12 months, it is taxed as earned income. If you hold it after a year, then you can claim what's called capital gains on it, which is most likely going to be a much smaller tax percentage for that property. So the way that this plays out, I'll just give you an example. I'll tell you about our personal situation. A year ago, almost to the date, we purchased a property in the area of Waco. We knew it was going to be a flip. We redid it. We had a whole lot of fun with it. It was amazing. But to avoid the earned income, we decided we would hold it for a year before we sold it. And in that time, we put it out for rent for a short-term renter. So here's how it looked. We got the flip done. We got our money invested in it. We got a short-term renter. We actually, a family that unfortunately their house had a fire in it and they needed a place to stay for about 4 months. And when you do a short term with this, you can charge a lot more than, a 12-month lease. So basically what we did is with that 4 months of rental, it covered an entire year of mortgage payments for us. Isn't that awesome? We were super grateful. And so that tenant moved out the end of the year. And then we put the property on the market in February to begin to work on selling it and with hopes of closing shortly after the 1 year expired. And that's exactly what happened. We're scheduled to close in 2 weeks. It's a great story. I'll share more about with you at the investment or the real estate mastery workshop that's coming up in April. I'll show you pictures of it. But that is a really great way to do a flip. But when we went in to buy it, we knew that if we had to, we could convert that into a buy and hold as well. So anyway, just something to think about on a tax perspective. And then a flip is generally best for well-capitalized investors who work full-time in a local market. The reason for that is there's a lot of nuances that are happening in markets, even understanding the way that appraisals work. You really need a team when you're working on a flip. Rarely can you do everything yourself. In a lot of cases, you don't want to. So going into an area where you get to know all the contractors, your plumbers, your electricians, you understand the rules in the city, all those things are really, really important. And as I mentioned, that it can be high risk if your timing in the market is not spot on, but we help you mitigate that, thinking through your additional exit strategies on the property. So we covered 4 different ways that you can have revenue streams from residential real estate. Just to review those, it was single family rentals, small multifamily properties, turnkey properties, and fix and flip real estate. So thank you. I hope this has been helpful for you and encouraged you to just really get started or even do more in real estate investing. Again, Billy and Becky want to thank you so much for being a part of Wealth Builders. They really see all of us as their family. And we hope to see you at the Wealth Builders Real Estate Workshop coming up again, April 22nd to the 24th. Find out more at wealthbuilders.org. And if you can't make it, I encourage you to check out Wealth Builders University. It's an incredible learning platform that is based on the Wealth Builders vision of making sense of making money for making a difference. We've got a ton of real estate courses out there, so check that out at wbuniversity.online. Thank you so much. God bless you and have an awesome rest of the day.
We hope you learned something of lasting value today from this Wealth Builders podcast. If you'd like any tools, teachings, or resources mentioned in the podcast, you'll find them online at wealthbuilders.org. Wealth Builders exists to teach you how to build wealth through applied biblical wisdom in your finances, your business, and your investments. Wealth Builders is a nonprofit organization. We depend on your donations to keep this podcast running. Please consider donating to us on wealthbuilders.org.